everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for the big week. It is finals week, and I'm joined by Ex-Springbok legend and former Rugby World Cup winner, Bob Skinstand. Bob, first of all, thank you so much for helping out. And have you recovered from last weekend and the weekends before
Steve, I
drama?
don't think you ever recover. I mean, two points in a quarters and a semi. I mean, I don't know if you saw, but I was commentating alongside Matt Dawson. I wasn't even able to celebrate. I was literally gone. Um, so no, I haven't recovered, but I am excited. I mean, we're into a final, and it's a great opportunity. I think this team have really played above themselves, and ridden the luck where they needed to. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just happy to be along for the ride.
And which match do you think you were more on edge of? Which match did you have more confidence that we'd be able to find a way?
Well, I think before the France match, I was really worried because I felt that they had this massive national sort of spirit behind them. I mean, the stadium was extraordinary in terms of they're talking rugby about the 16th man, and that's the crowd and everybody behind you. So that was I mean formidable, and I think it was an amazing opportunity to see the team and the resilience and just sticking into the game and holding onto the game. And then the funny thing is with the England match, I was the one saying they need to watch out for England because England could be a potential banana skin. England are up for this. England want to prove themselves. England under Borthwick needs some good news. There's a whole bunch of reasons, and then suddenly, 3-0, 6-0, 6-3, 9, 9-3, and I started to think, well, hang on, I hope they're not starting to believe as much as my mate Matt Dawson here because he's starting to whack the table with his fists. So I would say they were different iterations of themselves. Two very very tight, well contested games, but obviously very different in terms of tries scored and that kind of thing.
And then just in terms of looking back at the semi-finals, we saw two very different semis. On Friday, a bit of a blowout, which maybe it had the potential to do, but I think we were all hoping that Argentina would be a lot more competitive. And then, obviously the very close game on Saturday. Now, if you look at, for example, the world rankings, in theory there shouldn't have been that much of a difference between the two teams. So why do you think there was the blowout on Friday versus how close it was on Saturday?
It's a good question because I think Argentina have had so much going on in their prep. They quite famously said that they felt they were underprepared. So I thought they were going to come into the tournament, squeak through, even maybe win that England match, and then be really devastating around quarterfinals and semi-finals. But they just didn't turn up. So I don't know. I mean, I think the one thing you have to remember is that Argentina have got tremendous results over the last 3 years. I mean, they've beaten New Zealand in New Zealand, and in Australia. They've beaten South Africa home and away. They've beaten Australia in Australia. You know what I mean? They're a really, really top class outfit. I mean, they've beaten England recently. So I was expecting a lot more. If there was a preparation issue, then it has been addressed because Michael Cheika said as much. But I did feel sometimes you get that run, you get that momentum into a tournament. So I can't put my finger on it, but they weren't good enough for a very, very rampant All Black side who have definitely hit some fantastic form. And I think the important thing there is true champions know when to turn up, and the All Blacks did exactly that.
And then looking at the match between the Box and England, in terms of lessons learned, did England almost provide a bit of a blueprint on how to beat the Box? And how much do you think New Zealand watched that game and went, well, hang on, this is if the conditions are similar, which it is looking like it could be, this is how this. Do you think there were a couple of lessons that they might take out in terms of how they're going to approach the game this Saturday?
Yeah, look, I mean, you've got to give full credit to England. I mean, I think that the most important thing was that they executed a strategy which they implemented at 100%. They were amazing. Alex Mitchell's kicking was so on point. Freddie Stewart was brilliant in the air. They competed against every one of our lineouts. They squeezed the gap between the lineouts. They made it really difficult for us to play the kind of rugby we wanted to play. If the All Blacks can do that, then they will be as competitive as England are. But I don't think the All Blacks play like that. I mean, the All Blacks try and prize you open with a little bit of backline work. They cross kick a lot more than England did. Remember, they did a lot of box kicking, not so much cross kicking. And the All Blacks are very good in the air and will take us on. So we might see a lot of it. I don't think they're going to change their tactics 100% though. So they'll take the good bits out of that and then add the sprinkling of the good bits that they've already got.
Right, so you've been in the camp. The Monday you wake up and you're still sort of coming down a bit of a high from winning a semi-final, and all of a sudden you've got days left, for a final. What goes through your mind when you wake up on that Monday morning, in terms of the actual week, and what does that sort of week of build up towards a final look like?
It's funny, it's always a fun week because you're ready for this big challenge in front of you and you're ready to take on all comers. You're ready to take on whoever's in front of you and you want to do your bit. So there's a lot of like extra prep that you do, but it's just like homework. It doesn't really feel that you go in and you have a really tough week. I mean, I had an extraordinary incident because I had a preggy wife with a kiddie on the way, so I had my 1 hour was looking towards home. We and then my son actually arrived in World Cup final week, 3 weeks early. So it sort of threw my preparation a little bit. But I think back to my roommate Butch James, who's always a relaxed guy, and he was sort of pacing up and down a little bit, and we actually both said, well, let's just go calmly here because you're going to expend all of our energy before we even get onto the field, and that's what you need. You need to be at 100%. So I think what South Africa definitely do have is they've got that calmness to their approach. They've got that ability to take on, their individual tasks, but not to take on more pressure than they need to. So the week will be managed well by the staff and management, and they won't have players doing things that are different to their normal routine, but they certainly will be tidying up any extra, let's just say little bits of homework, like I said, little bits of detail on the plan and the strategy that they want to implement.
Okay, and then so the big talk at the moment is two very, not only physically but mentally draining playoff games. That full 80-minute performance is needed. A lot of fans are worried about the fatigue, and the team being tired and stuff. First of all, it's been a long tournament, a much longer tournament than before. So obviously mentally, there will be a lot of fatigue, and I think that's where, very interestingly, them having that whole family environment has apparently been so good from that perspective, because you don't necessarily feel like you're missing home too much because home's kind of with you. But also, I suppose, physically, a lot of these players will be tired. How much does that play a factor, or is it also a certain amount of, this is a World Cup final, it doesn't matter how I'm feeling, it doesn't matter what I'm going through. If there's one game I can pick myself up and sort of put that to the side, this should be the game.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think you make a good point. How much of that would cut out what they would do normally? I don't know. I really think that there's a lot of adrenaline on the night, and you get 10-20% more energy from that. So as long as you don't expend it in the week before, then it's there in reserve. I also think that they're very well prepared in terms of the amount of hours that they've had in those legs of theirs. I mean, not to sort of overpraise the staff and management from South Africa, but Eben Etzebeth in the semi-final was tired, and you could see it, and he wasn't his usual self, and at 47 minutes they said, okay, go, you're off, because we don't need you expending another 33 minutes of time and effort when you are off your game. Now, can you imagine the extra motivation that gives him to put those 33 minutes into a final? And I think we will see those instances. We will see those players that have had little rest, little time off. We haven't seen the team hasn't come out yet. I think everybody's trying to keep their powder dry. But I definitely think that the most important sort of players, senior players, they will have put the pieces of the jigsaw together so that the best team can turn up in that final 80 minutes.
That even Smith substitution you mentioned, I think for me was a very interesting point of the game. Even the Sia Khaleesi one quite early. Do you think that's a bit of a hallmark of the sort of coaching staff, that they're not afraid to make the big decisions? They're not afraid to hook a Marty Bach in the first half. We've seen them replace front rows and players at stages of the game which we don't traditionally see it happen. Do you think that's kind of been one of the main themes, is that there is the sense of no player is untouchable, and if you're not at your best, or if you're a little bit off, we have full confidence that whoever's replacing you can fill your role. So we don't just, you're not going to keep Eben Etzebeth on for 80 minutes just because it's Eben
Yeah.
Etzebeth. They're happy to replace him.
Well, I think you make a great point. They look at what they've done. They've said to the guys, "You're in a jersey. Okay, it's green and gold, and it's got a number on the back. It's yours for the time that we and you agree that you are giving your best for that jersey." And I think that's amazing. And I really, really think it goes back to what Owen Eastwood, the fantastic sort of, I mean, he's a modern day sort of psychologist in terms of team culture and participation. And he worked with the Ryder Cup guys, and he said, no, you're only in your spot for the minutes that you are playing for this team. As soon as you're out, the next person's in. So give them back that jersey in the best condition you can. Whether you retire and move on or you leave the field for 30 minutes because Snyman's got to go on, and I think the Springboks have embraced that naturally, and they've embraced it in terms of the empathetic leadership that we see from Siya Kolisi. So it's an amazing. I watch very closely. I'm an ex-player. I watch very, very closely. If I see a player coming off and shaking his head and throwing his elastoplast down into the thing, I think to myself, there's a fracture between the coach and that guy. But if I see a player coming off and you can see he's visibly disappointed, but will not absolutely display any of that, then I think there's a very healthy culture because he knows that you have to give respect. He wants to go into the fight himself, but he knows that it's been agreed that he's not the right person for that role for right now. So I think it's a huge step forward in terms of squad management and team management.
Yeah, I absolutely love that idea. I think that's something which has been quite prevalent in the All Blacks camp as well. And I think that's apparently they've attributed a lot of that turnaround to the idea that again, they're borrowing that jersey. It's not their jersey, and it's never
Well,
their
and
jersey. And that's sort of
to their credit, it is an ancient Maori sort of idea, and it's like you're only on this earth to take the baton, from your father and to hand the baton to your son. If you think of it in those terms, and yes, it does come from there. And Owen Eastwood is he's a Kiwi originally. So, but I think it applies. It doesn't matter what culture you get it from. It applies in family. It applies in team particularly, and I think the guys are doing it well.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, it's for me. We talk about that sort of that squad buy-in. I think that's been quite a prevalent thing, and all the teams have done well. I think in England as well. I think there seems to be a genuine buy-in and belief in what they're doing, which is why they might have overperformed. But let's talk about New Zealand. It's a very interesting scenario where we walk in. It's the old rivalry. We haven't had this match in a World Cup final since '95. It's the final that I think a lot of the diehards would have wanted. And if we look back at the recent history between the two teams, it's really changed from one game to the other. Last year winning in Mbombela, then losing at Ellis Park. This year being outplayed over in New Zealand, and then the thrashing at Twickenham. So it's a World Cup final, so you can never look too far backwards. But that result at Twickenham, I mean, that was the most dominant performance we've ever seen from a Springbok side against New Zealand side. There were a couple of players missing for New Zealand, but how much do you think that's playing on both sides' minds?
I think it'll be there in the background. I mean, it'll be a boon for the South African players who have seen, whether they were Springboks on that day or not, whether they were sort of squad players who've seen, what South Africa can do against the New Zealand side. So that's a positive. But I really think the guys aren't going to be looking backwards that much. I think they'll look at individuals and performances. And when I say performances, I'm talking about activities. So, is Aaron Smith passing better to the right or the left? What short side are they exploiting? Is he kicking better with his left or his right foot? When they've gone past 10 phases, are they passing inside or are they passing outside? So they will definitely go into the detail and the analysis of the stats that they get back from those games. But I don't think they'll look back at those results and say, oh, we beat them then, so therefore we should win. I think what they'll do is they'll say, we've recently proved that if we're at 100% and they're at 100%, we've beaten them. If they're at 100 and we're at 98, they've beaten us. And if we're at 98 and they're at 100, they've beaten. So that kind of thing. I think they absolutely want to make sure that they go into this game with the best possible chance of putting 80 minutes of quality from every single player, or player plus substitutes that are in their jerseys.
Now going into a final, you try to draw on so many different things to just try and give you that sort of small edge and stuff. And maybe this is just a mental thing. South Africa have never lost a World Cup final. We've never gotten to this stage of a tournament and not gone the full way. How much confidence do you think that gives to the team, knowing that, and almost sort of an expectation that we, in just general, we've never lost World Cup finals, and there's a lot of obviously World Cup winners already in that squad who know what it takes to win a final. That's got to be some sort of boost and a mental thing within that
Yeah, of
squad.
course it will be. I mean, it's great to have a historic record like that, and it's one that us as former players are very proud of. Um, but yeah, all records are out there and achieved in the time, by someone, and they're put down as a marker for other people to aim at. So I believe in records as, I don't say, well, they're all made to be broken, because I think that would be negativist of me. What I'm saying is that I think that they're done because of achievement of people in the past, and that you can use them as a goal to aim at. So these guys, the last time they won, it was done as an achievement because of most of them. So I mean, they certainly would want to repeat that, and that I think they will remember the week in between a scratchy semi-final against Wales, and then a very dominant performance in that final against England, and they'll say, okay, what did we tweak, what did we improve on, and um, what were we able to implement that made us beat who the number one side in the world at that stage, in a final where certainly the whole world of rugby watching public had written them off and said, well, England are going to dominate them in the final. And I think they really showed sort of stickability, and they put up a great performance. So they'll want to go back and look at that. They'll say, what did we change and tweak and improve?
Yeah, I mean that idea of having been written off, it's a bit different this time, and for me, it's an interesting thing that people have been talking about. Almost that from a psyche perspective, the Boks almost need to learn to embrace the favourites tag of points, and embrace the fact that at times they have been the best team in the world, and not always necessarily been a side which when play best when they're written off, which is what a lot of fans seem to sort of think. This weekend is a very interesting scenario because 2 months ago, especially maybe even after that Twickenham result, nobody would have said going into a final with the All Blacks and the Springboks that the Springboks might be the ones coming in as slight underdogs because of the semi-finals and sort of the way it's transpired. But I mean, in my perspective, I think we're going in pretty much even. I
Yeah.
think that the Boks have had some great results and some disappointing results. Similarly with New Zealand, I don't think there's a lot between the two teams.
Well,
Is that a bit of a different sort of
they've
psyche
both had a
shift?
loss in this tournament. So again, someone
Yeah.
who's lost a pool game is going to win a World Cup. And before the last World Cup, that had never happened. So that's a
Yeah,
new
and
record.
they've both beaten a side that was supposed to be
Well,
one of the favourites in France and Ireland were the two
odds on
favourites.
favourites to beat them
You
in their
know,
quarterfinals.
yeah,
So absolutely, I think
yeah.
they're breaking new ground. And I think they have to embrace that, and they're going to use that as very positive prep for what they're doing going forward.
Right. So the thing that's on everyone's minds at the moment is the Bok team selection. 6-2, 7-1, 5-3. It's been interesting to see how that's kind of evolved over the tournament, and the addition of Andre Pollard has seen us back to revert to a 5-3 to accommodate him. He obviously came off the bench and didn't miss a beat over the weekend. Um, where are you sort of sitting here? Do you think that we might see a 6-2? Do you think that they're going to really want to keep Marnie Bok and Andre Pollard, which Rassi said would basically always mean it's going to be a 5-3? Some people are saying that the 7-1 worked last time. Will we see a 7-1 this time? I mean, do you expect any surprises?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a great question, because the Springbok squad has been built on being able to have two players in every position. Um, and if you think now, like for like, if Damien Delendi broke his leg last week, would we be worried about Andre Esterhuizen? Andre Esterhuizen was man of the match when we beat New Zealand, by 30 odd points at Twickenham. So, if Jesse Kriel was injured, would we be worried about bringing in Lucanio Am or Canon Moody at outside centre? I mean, I think we've got amazing replacements. We are a bit thinner um, in the hooker area because of that big injury to Malcolm Marx, but I still think that the backup that we've got is outstanding. It is a worry with Bongi and Banambi, and I've been travelling, so I don't know the outcomes, etc. But they would, that'll be a factor. I think we might see one or two little surprises. Um, and they won't be groundbreaking, but they'll be like, that was interesting. You know, either the surprise would be the team's exactly the same as what started in the semi-final, because that would be a surprise for me
Yeah.
because Pollard came on and was dominant. But maybe that's what they need if the conditions are such that you want a running backline, because that's what we've seen. And I think the most important thing is if we see those surprises, they will have been cooking in Jacques and Rassie's boiling pot for about 5 years. They'll be surprises to us, but they won't be surprises to them or the squad, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing about this coaching staff is that there's nothing ever happens by accident, and you always do feel that whatever they're doing, it has been planned to the last final sort of detail. A word on experience. It's for me that's been a big aspect of this tournament. How so many players, so many fans are very quick to write off older players, and they want the youth and the young guys. And there's no doubt that there's certain players who add a lot of energy and the youngster. But when we saw Sam Whitelock with that moment against Ireland, we've seen some of the big players really sort of standing up. Your Dion Faris, for example, who's not experienced international, but has played everywhere, been there, done that. Going into a World Cup final, experience is always so key, and just how important is it, and how interesting is it to be seeing older players being able to sort of maybe get away with not being maybe physically what they once were, but mentally, knowing a couple of shortcuts, knowing the game so well that they've been able to adapt and been able to affect the game, sometimes even more so than in sort of youth because they understand the game so well.
Yeah, I think. Look, I mean, the one thing you've got to remember is that age is just a number. We go, oh, it's really surprising the guy's 37, but that's because we haven't seen 37-year-old rugby players. You know what I mean? I played a lot of rugby with some older guys who always added more value, much more value than youngsters who were still, let's just say, undecided about their path. I played with Uckers at 37. He was the oldest Springbok at that stage. I think 37 in 10 days or something like that. And he was unbelievable in 2 tests we played away in New Zealand, because he just sat in the pocket, his area of defence, winning his line-out, putting pressure on the opposition, and he was amazing. And I think if you look at what Dion Faris done, why would you not bundle 21 years of an international or a professional rugby playing career, okay, into this individual who's now got an incredible chance and ability um, to perform on the international stage. Like for me, he's had 19 years of disappointments of not making the Springboks, and now he's got his chance. Do you think he's going to be not running at 200%? I think he's much more valuable than a guy who's got lots of talent and is 20 tests deep, and he thinks he just deserves to be there. You know what I mean? Dion Fourie would rather die, and I say that very markedly, than not be seen as giving 100% of his physical ability in a test match. And I mean, for me, I get goosebumps even thinking about it like that.
Yeah, I think he's been such a great example, him and for me like the way Sam Whitelocks of just never right to play it off. And I remember being in his first press conference when he had just been called up, and I think it was him, and he said, and Albert Lowe was asked a question, and the same thing for him, and you're sitting there looking at like 17 years between them or whatever it was, and how they were both just so desperate to get onto the field, and that sort of that dream never changes, and that hunger, which is so important.
Exactly.
So brilliant, Joe. Thank you. So just to come to an end, I think just to finish, I'd like to put you on the spot a little bit, and do a bit of quick fire predictions. So we've got a couple of questions here. You can justify them to a point, but we'll try and keep this quite short and concise. So I've got five questions here. 4 of them final base, and then the 3rd and 4th place prediction. Okay, so we'll start with the 3rd and 4th. England versus Argentina. Who have you got winning and why?
I think I've got England winning. They've got a lot to prove that this World Cup. Winning a bronze medal at this World Cup will be great for Steve Borthwick and his team. I think they'll want to go out and prove that teams like Argentina, sure, might have beaten them in the past, but that's not the kind of thing that they want going forward. So I think they've got a lot riding on this game.
All right, cool. And then for the final, a score prediction?
Wow. I think the final is about a 23-18 match.
23 to 18 match. Okay. And then who do you think will score the try? Which player is going to score the first try, if there is a try in the game?
If there is a try in the game, I actually think it'll be someone completely random, like a Frans Malherbe.
I love that, and I'll be very happy for France if he managed to do that. And then a winning margin, and who have you got? Which side? So who? South Africa, New Zealand, and by how many?
Yeah, so I think South Africa can win this match by 5.
By 5. Okay, I hope so. I do also think it's going to be nice and close. And then the final one, who will be the man of the match come the end of the 80?
Man of the match in the World Cup final, I think the last 4 has been a fly half. So he'll have a number 10 on his back. I'm just not sure who they're going to pick in that position. Maybe it's a number 23.
Yeah, no, that's a good point as well. All right, cool. Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time, and hope that predictions do come true, and we are celebrating a Springbok victory. Enjoy the game this weekend, and yeah, hopefully next time we see each other, we're talking about being record 4th holders, and they can add to the legacy that you contributed.
Yeah, I hope so. It's been a great World Cup to support, so we've enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much.